we're playing a little bit with what are the things that are intersections for these artists. Because on the one hand, when you're looking at two different artists, you want to find the similarities, but you also want to find the differences. And one of the things that for me in the curation of the show is that became very evident was, of course, their love of nature, the sky, clouds, but also that these two people also are musicians. They love music, and so that is where we came up with the show title Cloud Songs, because there is this lyrical feeling about their work, and when you find out that they are both true musicians along with being artists and painters, you can really see this in each of their works. So first, I just wanted to say thank you and congratulations. It's really a very beautiful show, and I'm very proud to have it in the gallery. And I thought that one thing that will be really wonderful is to start out with one of my favorite things to do with artists, talk a little bit about artistic practice. Because when you look at the resulting paintings of any given artist, it's easy to look at them and think through what you feel about them, but you don't really understand how they are made. And to get a little insight into that is so fun. So I will turn it over to the artist now, and we'll talk a little bit about your artistic practice. What does artistic practice mean to you, and how does that evolve and then become the resulting paintings that we're looking at? So Don, I'm going to have you start.
Okay.
Since this is also Don's third show here in the gallery, it's been such a pleasure to work with you all these years, and really fun to see these new paintings here in the space.
So you would like to talk about process? Is
Yes.
that it? Okay. Everybody should know that I have an 80% hearing loss, so that has a big influence on my painting. Anyway, process. There's a lot of glazing going on. I start out with a sketch. I then make a small, and then once that's dry, I use a Sharpie to mark it up and say, push the background farther back, or pull it, the foreground farther in, or change the olive green to an emerald green. There's Sharpie marks all over the place. So from that, I make it much larger and go into the oil painting itself. Glazing is a big part of what I do. The painting, One Morning, which is up in front, that has 30 or 40 glazes on it. And each glaze, which is like a syrup in consistency, has to dry. So each layer dries, and then another layer is brushed on top of that. I thought I came up with this, and I found out it's like 15th century. Da Vinci did it.
That was a good job, Don.
Anyway,
You did it.
In the 15th century, they called the technique sfumato, which means smoky
that's
blend.
not sfumato. Sfumato is a smokiness or the blending that's going on.
And so you have a blending and a soft focus to your work that you would say was sfumato. Yeah. Jeffrey, you want to tell us a little bit about your process, which is
Sure.
quite different.
Well, first I'd like to just say I really appreciate being invited, and that I'm really glad to have someone representing me who is so attuned to the essential part of how this stuff comes to be. And you're very articulate. And Cloud Songs, I just thought, that's perfect. It's a great title, so thank you so much. Yeah, my process is very improvisational from start to finish. And my favorite part is probably with being in the studio with a blank canvas. And I just counted recently, my palette's got, I think, 63 different shades on it, which is a pain in the ass to clean and reload every time. But, I mean, when you're first starting out, that becomes the fun bit. You're just like, look at this painting, look at this. And so I'm starting out, and I'm trying to not go too saturated too quick. So there'll be these sort of muted tones, and even this kind of thing where it looks pretty bright, but it could be much more saturated. And I found that my impulse is to go full on color, 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 and it's too much. It's too bright. You need a foil. You need something that's going to offset it to give you a relief. I was told that this shirt is a good foil for this jacket by my daughter, so I appreciate that. I think it runs in the family. But this painting is maybe a good example because it's got examples of glazing like Don's talking about. Because the thing about oil paint, it's so lends itself to that ease of use where you can use it like a watercolor. You can put it on transparently. You can go opaque. You can take an orbital sander. There's some sanding that goes on. Give it that kind of butch, roughed up look. Kind of distresses it. But everything just keeps changing, painting over, painting over. You saw it when it was still a lot of these sort of broken bits.
You can project out that way.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Pamela visited the studio, and this painting wasn't done yet. And she
I could see
very diplomatically suggested that perhaps this area was not resolved. And it kind of clicked in my head like, you're totally right. That's right. And so that kind of gave me permission to change that. But
And you nailed it. It's amazing.
Thank you.
Fantastic thing.
Thank you.
Well, I think it's fun to hear a little bit about what the process is and how painstaking it is to finish a painting. It's hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a painting 3/4 of the way there, and it's hard to resolve. Those are the last quarter is the hard part, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I would love to hear a little bit about how you think your work is dialoguing with the other, because I think that it is always more evident when it's in the room together.
Sure.
What it is that how your paintings are responding to each other's.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that Jeffrey's work is much more playful than mine. Colorful and playful. I come from a different standpoint. It's more mystery and darkness, I guess. But I use mystery, beauty, and hope in almost all of mine.
Oh, I like that.
Nice. Yeah.
It's like a primary colors for me.
Yeah. I like that you said hope because I like to. I don't even have to try. It's just my spirit of myself is life. I want to be life affirming, right? I want to be positivity. I feel like the world is what you think it is, and life is your friend. So put something out there that reflects that. I think I was a little worried that my stuff was going to be like the loud drunken uncle next to the quiet, sort of meditative, But I was like, well, they asked me to be here. So. But
It's
I think
interesting that you would say that because a lot of the comments that I've heard about this show in terms of how other people are receiving it is that Don's work has a quieter, more serene quality.
Sure.
Your work is maybe more boisterous and, of course, more playful.
Sure.
And those things are a lot more evident when they are seen together.
Cheek to jowl, yeah.
Yeah, it's just easier to say one or the other when they're sitting next to each other.
Right.
And I love that because it's fun to then see the commonalities and the differences.
Yeah.
A lot of us struggle with art language until you're in the presence of art, and then it's a little easier to say this versus that, right? And that's part of unveiling the mystery and makes it fun.
It's true.
I have to, because I love your tie-in with music, I have to know, like, what is it is there a musical quality to your work? Is there a song that you, when you look at your work, feel like, my song sounds like, my paintings sound like, because I have an idea about that, but I'd love to hear what you think your paintings sound like.
Go for it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Sesame Street all the way, baby.
Wow, I love that. Okay.
That's a big influence.
The 70s, so for sure.
How about you, Don?
The music I used to make is very similar to this. Atmospheric, subtle, I think you just carry that with you, you know, whatever you do. If you're going to make a pizza, it's going to be the same thing.
I love that you said that because when you have artists who have multiple disciplines, you kind of wonder, is your music the same voice? Right?
Yeah, that's a good
And
question.
I think for sure I already knew that about you, and Don will say his work is sort of atmospheric renderings of landscapes. They are not based on a place, but a sensation, right?
Right.
Jeffrey, what do you think? Is your music similar voice as your artwork?
You know, in a way, because they're both exploratory, you know, they're both improvisational. I listen to music all the time in the studio, just constantly. Everything except for the spoken word. I tried to do books on tape, and it's too distracting. I can't. But music, you know, Yo-Yo Ma and the Shins, and just across the whole board. The thing that I've noticed is that, and you probably have the same experience, is that the idea of time is very integral to both music and painting, but in totally different ways. So, you know, we're spending all this time in motion making these paintings, right? The final product is static. It doesn't change in time. Music is time. You know, your heart beats. You know, you're in the music, and then it's gone. There's nothing to see. They're both so vital, and I can't imagine living without either. But there's ties in. There's all kinds of overlap and, you know,
I love that.
inspiration. Song titles find their way into this painting titles.
They're interwoven,
Or
especially for people.
or misheard song lyrics. Those are some of my favorites. I was listening to a song and I thought they said Szechuan Post-it note. That can't be right, but I got to write that down. So that was the title of a painting at some point.
You might have been singing that for years.
I know.
I'm sure I've been singing a lot of lyrics wrong for a long time.
That's okay. Don't ever change.
Right. So one of the things that I wanted to delve into with both of you is a little bit of some of the differences of what you guys are doing. Jeffrey, in your work, and in particular the one behind you, but some of the others, you had mentioned to me that one of the inspirations of the work was Leonardo da Vinci's deluge drawings.
Sure. Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about how that relates to these paintings?
Oh my gosh. Well, Leonardo, I think about a lot because he's such a puzzle. He comes across in some ways as the ultimate intellect, right? He's just inquisitive. He's curious, but then he'll come up with these paintings that are just so mysterious, so smoky and sexy. You know, the Mona Lisa. It's kind of a sexy painting. Like we've seen it too much, but he did these drawings at the end of his life that were out of his head, which is also unusual because most of his stuff was empirical. He was drawing what he saw. So these deluge drawings where he was trying to draw the energy, the motion of the wind and the storms coming out of the sky, and they're just these beautiful, stylized, almost Chinese swirls, this kind of thing. They could be a flower, they could be braided hair. There's sort of all these amazing sort of natural forms that keep coming up, but I don't really know how I started doing this. I was doing a lot of holding like 2 and 3 brushes in one hand with different colors on them and going in and going. So you get these kind of interesting accidents, right? I saved that. I like that a lot. And then I started doing it a little bit more deliberately, and then it was almost tedious, but it was like a sign painting where I really wanted that to be clean. I really wanted that to blend in, and you got to do a bunch of layers. You got to glaze it, so you got to clean it up each time. But I like that flatness. It's so flat against the depth of the illusion of the window, you know. There's something I keep kind of coming back to. The credits of Mulan. There's a lot of that.
Spirals are in the earliest artwork on Earth.
Right.
It is one of the shapes that is found across the planet in all of the most primitive artwork. So there is something to it that I think humans respond to.
Totally. Yeah.
And Da Vinci did in the 1400s, and here you are, 2025.
You're so smart.
Doing it. No. But I love that about the work because you also mentioned that it has a little bit of like a 70s graphic look, which is cool.
Yeah.
And it also has a little bit of this feeling of the wind. You're looking up into the sky. watering, and then you see this. We don't see the wind. We
Right.
just see the evidence of the wind.
Yeah.
And wind is something that inspires a lot of artists.
Yeah.
And here it is. It's like your version, in a way, of the wind. And you see it in the birds, and you see it also in this sort of make-believe image, which relates back to one of the masters of art history. It's really cool.
Thank you. Yeah.
So hopefully you guys get to enjoy that painting in a little bit different vision now.
Yeah.
I have a question. Is it okay?
Sure.
So I had great hearing and I have Beauchamp hearing loss. I relate to both of you and I can't sense for. There's a few times in my life when all my senses were alive and attuned and I saw things and I heard things crystal. How that hears is now that I can't hear, this is how I hear the world soften or muted.
Yeah.
And that's what I heard before I lost my hearing.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you. So Don, one of the things that I have loved most about hearing about your artistic practice is when you talk about conceiving of a painting by thinking about a person and their attributes. I don't think anybody in this room would have ever thought about one of these paintings and thought that the genesis of the work was somebody you knew. Because it's a landscape, and we all are so direct in the way we think about things, and we think, well, he saw a landscape, and then he painted it.
Right.
And so to hear what inspires you, I'd really love for you to unveil a little of that mystery for them and tell them a little bit about that approach.
They're not all from people, but a few of them are. These are people who have had some effect on my life. And I know that they're well, move on. Kind of hard to talk about. Anyway, they are not portraits. Late, for instance, is a little girlfriend of mine, and she was a beautiful, bright, brilliant person, and she died tragically. So the title has a couple of different levels of meaning for me. I've done some other our friend Dave raised her hand. I did a portrait, not a portrait, but a painting of you that I'm not sure you've ever seen. It was sold.
It's beautiful. I know the painting.
You never will.
And that was called Morning Rambler. And it has a lot of your feelings in there.
So Don one time explained to me that sometimes when he's conceiving of a painting, Morning Rambler, for example, which was a really, really beautiful painting, and he said, well, I think about someone like Dave, and I think about someone who is balanced and who is calm, and what would those attributes look like in a landscape? And this was just one of the most peaceful, beautiful paintings. And I would never have looked at that painting. It looked like a beautiful lake in the morning with a little bit of a reflection of the landscape on the horizon and this little bit of rippling in the water. I would never have thought that what you were pulling from was the essence of somebody's person.
Exactly.
And then I started to look around at each of your paintings and I thought, wow, you could really find those attributes in a lot of these works. And I would not have thought that until you told me. So it's always fun to hear where an artist finds that inspiration, because I don't paint, so I don't think that way. And the rest of us here are really engaged with finding out those places where you find inspiration.
Yeah.
So I think that one of the last things that I wanted to ask you is, you know, a lot of times I think both of your work can be thought of as sort of photographic. Dawn's especially, when I put digital images online, I have to sort of disclaimer, this is not a photograph, this is a painting, because they almost look like manipulated photos. And so I wanted to ask you, you know, what is it that makes it so much more touching and beautiful than a photo? Because now we're sort of all photographers, right? We have these great cameras in our hands. Tell me what it is that you feel like is different than taking a photo of the same vista.
These are more realist than I'm typically known for. And usually they're much more abstract. Not quite sure what else I can tell you.
We'll go to Jeffrey and then come back in case if you have something else. All right, Jeffrey.
I was just digging this painting because I hadn't really spent a lot of time with that, and I love the fade from that cool blue down into the pink. And I know the cool blue is supposed to be closer because I've had to work that way myself and have that pink, the pink wants to come forward, and it's just that's what it looks like in real life. So that's well done. Mm-hmm. I think about that a lot, the whole photography versus painting thing, because people have been saying painting is dead for a long time, pretty much since photography was invented, right? And somehow it still is relevant, but why? Why is it relevant, and why do we bother? Somebody said it, and I looked it up, and Google was no help. I said, who said the quote? Somebody said that photography slices life too thin, or it just slices life very thin. And I thought that's a really good way to put it. And painting gives you a little bit of a thicker slice, right? Because you're looking at it. And the other thing is, you know, we've all taken pictures of these beautiful sunsets and things on our phones, and then you look at them, and you're like, it didn't really capture it. It doesn't quite. Why not? It's a great lens. It should, you know, you can manipulate it. I don't know why not. But the idea that these things are handmade, you know, laboriously sometimes, but you know, I think it goes back to me. It goes back to the time spent. You know, it goes back to the archaeology that you're putting in. You know, the layers and layers of glazes, the sanding, the changing of the mind. It's all this. It's all that time that you kind of front load into these things. You know, and hopefully that's what is sort of teeming there. That kind of throbs with potential. You know, for forever.
Right.
You know.
I can tell you for sure, because I spend all day every day with paintings, right. And I spend all day every day engaging with people who are engaging with your paintings.
Right.
Your paintings hold energy.
Yeah.
It is the energy you put into those paintings.
Right.
And when people are in front of it, not necessarily on their phone in front of it, right. But really in front of that painting, they receive that energy.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they give it back. Mm-hmm. And it is really deeply meaningful to people. Right. And I've seen people brought to their knees in front of a painting. And I can be sure that, you know, they don't have that same experience on their phone. Right. And so that's really the magic. Why painting? Because you can't get that through an image or a screen the way you can receive it in a painting. Yeah. And even hundreds of years old paintings still give energy. Yeah. They hold energy. You can't see it, but some of us can. Yeah. And that's what's so special. So, you know, each one of these paintings holds the time, the effort, the thought, the inspiration of the artist who gave it.
Right.
That's really what's special about
You're here.
paintings. Right? So we are nearly out of time, and the last thing I wanted to ask you all, because we have recently had this wonderful Wayne Thiebaud exhibition at the Legion of Honor, which really dealt a lot with what were his inspirations and who was he dialoguing with. And I had the great, wonderful, recent experience of seeing a beautiful show at the Royal Academy in London of Anselm Kiefer and his dialoguing with Van Gogh's work, which was also just phenomenal. And so I wanted to ask you all, is there an artist? I mean, you just talked about Da Vinci, and you actually talked about Da Vinci too. But is there an artist you feel like you dialogue with?
There's lots of artists. Gerhard Richter.
Yeah.
Yes, totally see that now.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I totally see that
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah.
The
Abstract
yes,
and realism,
yes, I
portraits.
totally get it. Yeah.
Helen Frankenthaler. It goes Corot. Lots of people.
Those are good ones.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of also musicians. I'm thinking of Brian Eno.
Oh, yeah.
All kinds of people.
Yeah, yeah.
Give me one more musician.
Somebody like David Byrne.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay.
I see that. Yeah.
Jeffrey?
Well, you had actually given us a list of questions, and the one question that is adjacent to this question, which was if you could speak to any artist from the past about clouds and skies in particular, because of the theme of the show. And of course, the last couple of days I've been like, oh, what should I say? What should I say? And it's tempting to say someone like Gainsborough or Turner, who were famously looking at a lot of clouds and painting a lot of clouds. But I was imagining talking to them and thinking like, well, once you go like, I love clouds. Don't you like clouds? Yeah, I like clouds. You like clouds? How about that cloud? That's a nice cloud. Yeah. And then there's like this awkward silence. I mean, what else are you going to say? We love painting clouds. The person who I think I would like to talk to about it is John Singer Sargent, who I love and who famously painted almost no clouds. And I would say to him, what the hell? Why? I mean, just such, I mean, the facility and the tone, the eye he had for tone. I mean, he painted like the edge of one little cloud in one painting that I'm aware of. So I would ask him like, why? What was the avoidance? What are you running from?
I love that.
But also, I'm kind of glad he didn't, because then I would be out of business, right? I'd be like, oh, I can't top that. If he painted clouds, it's a good thing he didn't paint clouds. But I'm just curious.
Musician?
Ooh, musician.
Oh, Jazz Jack?
That's right. The person who comes up on my Spotify year-end thing, where they tell you like they make the big deal, is Bach. So I just listen to a lot of Bach. You wouldn't necessarily know that, right? But I mean, he's just, there's something about the complexity and that embroidery that he brings through, all the counterpoint, and it's just so perfect. You know, he's sort of the Jim Henson of classical music.
That's quotable. I'm sure you all have some questions, so feel free later on to come and ask. Thank you so much for coming. Once again, thank you so much for the creations and sharing it so bravely with us. I always think that it is such an amazing courage to put forward these paintings and a privilege for us to get to take them in. So thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm so glad you were here tonight.